the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is EDtech, episode number 3, recorded Monday, March 26th, 2012. Go Bears! It's time for EDtech, the education-based and focused audiovisual show from AVNation. My name is Tim Albright, your host. With us is Scott Tyner, the Assistant Director, User Services at Bates College. Hello, sir.
Hey, Tim.
Matt Silverman, the Project Manager, Learning Space Design at George Mason University.
How's it going, Tim?
Doing well. And all the way across the country, please welcome Greg Brown, the Manager of Classroom Design and Maintenance at UCLA.
Classroom Technology Design.
Classroom Technologies. You know, you
already messed it up.
I know. Classroom
Hello,
Technology.
Tim. It's a pleasure to be here.
Go
Thank
Bruins.
you anyway.
Off the air, I told him go Bears because I just have Chicago on the brain. So
you can say that. I can't say that.
I know. Today we're going to talk about Extron and their new iOS because we're all excited about it, and that was my tongue in my cheek. BenQ and some interactive projectors and some Super Tuesday stuff that I'm really excited about. But first we're going to talk about Crestron. Not for nothing, but they've had a couple changes come down the pike, and we're going to talk about a couple of different ones. The first one is A+ pricing. And if you are a Crestron user, if you're an end user of Crestron gear, and you don't know about the A+ program, we'll go into that a little bit, but also about the changes in pricing. One of the things is A+ is their education-based, I guess program is the best way to put it. It's their reach out to connect with the education guys. And Matt, they've changed around their partner pricing a little bit, not a whole lot. But what is this kind of? I mean, you guys buy a lot of Crestron gear. So does this, all these little pricing structures and the rebates that they're offering, or the rewards points, I guess, that they're offering, incentivize you guys to buy more, or is it just like, hey, this is nice, a nice gift, we're going to buy as much as we were going to anyway?
I'd say for us at this point, it's a nice sweetener on top. We had already committed to an architecture, so it wasn't the thing that got us there. Though, if I was in a situation where I was judging two companies, and we have historically, it would definitely help. We love educational programs here at George Mason. I mean, we've worked with other AV companies, we've worked with software companies, and really it's always great when we can get the best price for the university. So being able to have guaranteed maximum pricing, if you were, that's how I generally look at a lot of these programs, is I know what my ceiling is. So when I'm doing an estimate either for my boss or for a departmental client at George Mason, I can give them a pretty accurate, not to exceed number for their hardware. Yeah. And that's fantastic. And we've done that with Crestron and also other vendors that we work with.
Well, and Scott, not only that, but they've also given you 3 more years on top of the parts and labor. They've extended that to 5 years, and I could be wrong. That's the biggest one in the industry, the longest warranty in the industry.
I think the warranty is fantastic, and obviously I think the products are good to start with, so you don't often need a warranty. I'll tell you one of the things that I like best about this press release is the direct RMA for warranty repairs. Yeah. And I have actually had to use that a few times, and it's so much easier to call up the company, get an RMA, and get it sent than trying to go through your dealer, who even if it's a great dealer, and we've got great dealers, this is not what they want to spend their time doing. And so it's a slow process. We've had stuff get shipped to Crestron and back in 4 or 5 days now through that. So that's the one for me that's really huge. I haven't done anything yet with the reward points. I think that's another one that for me, I think the neat thing about that is I can now get a little stock of backup equipment or even test equipment from my bench, so I can kind of configure some things and understand how they're going to work before I start putting them in classrooms. without having to explain to somebody why I want to spend, $2,000 or $3,000 to do that.
Yeah, because that's kind of a hard sell when they're looking at the classroom where you should be populating it with equipment instead of your bench.
Right, and so here we go. This is kind of, it's almost saying to us, hey, here's your pot of money you can use for some things.
Yeah. Greg, I'm not sure how big or how much you guys use Crestron at UCLA, but I'm sure you use some. Is this one of those things where you guys can, like Scott said, use this to kind of populate your bench and get your guys, up to speed on a lot of the new stuff?
Well, we're very new as far as an A+ partner. We became one just a couple of months ago. We have a grand total of 1 Crestron system.
Wow.
There are some other departments that do have other Crestron equipment and other companies, but we're predominantly Extron right now. But we're moving towards Crestron, certainly in the bigger rooms. So, but since we're fairly new to this, new to working with them, this new reality has sort of been our existing reality. We didn't really see a change, or we came in about the time that they made this change, and we're also very fortunate in that they have Crestron West, not very far from us. It's actually closer to home than the university is for me.
Oh, wow.
So nicely convenient, and we've had a number of people down there already. And I guess my only thought here was on the points here. You have to use them. What was it? You have the one where they expire here. You have to use them by the 1st of September, and It probably would have been a little bit nicer for that to extend out a little further. I mean, usually about the 1st of September, I'm sort of mid-nervous breakdown in preparation for, the start of fall classes. But no, I think it's a good move overall.
That was one thing that I found kind of funny, and I can see both sides of it. They don't carry over to the following fiscal year. It's July through July, basically. And then, so all credits must be redeemed no later than the following September. So this year it would be September 1st. That was kind of a little weird. But I can also see it from their side, where you don't want to have somebody like, I don't know, University of Illinois buying things year to year, and all of a sudden they've got $3 million worth of points. I'd like one of each, please. Thank you. Right now, yeah. Well, and kind of coupled with that is our next story, and that's an email that I'm sure all of you guys got for A+ educational partners, and it's something that Extron has done for a while, and I'm not trying to compare the two, but we're going to anyway. The email says, or the post says, get free travel for training. And I don't know about the rest of you guys. I'm sure you guys have at least been to some sort of training for Crestron. I live in St. Louis, or outside of St. Louis, so my local office is in Chicago, and I've been up there on a couple of occasions. And my school was gracious enough to pay for the travel and the airfare and the hotel for the week. Now Crestron does pay for our training, which I have some integrator friends, which the classes that I took were $1,000 a pop. Crestron does foot that bill, but in conjunction with this other program, you basically earn credits for them to pay for your training. So, I mean, Greg, would this incentivize you to buy more if this would help, I guess, pay for some of your training?
Jury's kind of out on that. We're not quite sure how we're going to handle the programming at this point. Sort of the subject of internal debate right now. Although the whole 50 rooms you get 1 credit. Ooh, I think it's going to be a while before we have 50 Crestron rooms, as much as they would like it to happen.
Well, then we'll go over to Matt, because I know Matt has 50 Crestron rooms.
Yeah, just a couple. Yeah,
a couple.
No, I'll tell you,
you have 50 DM rooms by now.
Actually, I have 87. But who's counting?
Must be nice.
No kidding.
So no, it's something that we look at is we send people annually there, and one of the interesting things I noticed, it's actually not expenses to your closest Crestron facility, but they want to fly you up to the mothership.
Yeah,
which I
good
get
point.
that. It's good
point.
marketing, And it's the same reason Extron likes to fly everyone out to Anaheim. There's something about going up to training at New Jersey, which is just something else. It's been probably 5, 7, actually even longer, 9 years since I've been up to New Jersey for training. But it was a much different experience going to the headquarters than I've done a couple of trainings now at our Mid-Atlantic office in Maryland. And it's really about getting you in for the experience. And I'll tell you, they're going to sell you more product every time you go up, and that may not be a bad thing. But it really gets you in to understand Crestron's corporate culture and their whole organization, which I think is worthwhile. Because we all have our contacts at Crestron, and this helps you kind of start building some of that. And three slots a year. I mean, we've been looking at this, and we said that's at least for us, we already have enough rooms that we're going to get all 3 slots every year.
Wow.
And it'll be great. It becomes for us and also an incentive program for some of our technicians who we say, hey, we're investing in you. We're sending you up for training on someone else's time, but we're still really, we're giving you that slot.
Yeah.
And we think that'll be a really big thing where I was talking with some of our managers here that we're really looking forward to getting some people who may have not got up to training and basically say, hey, you do really well. You get to go to New Jersey. For people who just have to go, we'll do what we've always done is send you to Maryland. So try to give that little boon to our staff as we can.
Well, let me ask you this, and this is for you or Scott. Is there benefit, maybe, and I get the benefit of sending them to Jersey, I do. So, and you're right, the same reason that Extron sends you to Anaheim. But isn't there a benefit, though, to connecting you with your local guy? Because when I call the 800 number, that's who I get connected to is Chicago.
Well, I'll say it depends. And sorry, our local guy is in Atlanta, our education guy.
Oh, okay.
Except
Wow.
my local office is in the Mid-Atlantic. I know both my education guy and my Mid-Atlantic office manager, as well as some other people. But I've just found how big Crestron's getting. More contacts are better, and hopefully your A-plus partner rep is already pushing this stuff on you. So hopefully you know them pretty well.
We won't talk about the Midwest education guy.
Or the Northeast. Sorry about that. No, but I think that the training program is interesting. I went to training in Crestron. Man, it seems like a long time ago now, probably 6 or 7 years ago. It was absolutely worth it, and I think like I agree with Matt in that it gives us an opportunity to send some people that maybe we wouldn't have sent otherwise if we had to do it out of pocket. I don't think it gives me any incentive to go add more rooms. I just as soon have a closer rep here up in New England too than go down to New Jersey. But it definitely gives us an opportunity to send some people who otherwise wouldn't go.
Yeah. Greg, in case you need ammunition for your meetings, here's the thing. Here's what I would say this, and I have some guys that work with me who aren't, who've never been to Crestron, and I've been trying to get them slowly acclimated to that. But here's my elevator pitch for that. I'm not asking you guys to become Crestron certified programmers, but if you can open up simple windows and change out a DVD, that's really all I'm asking. Or at least make heads or tails of the program. That's really kind of all that I'm asking for the guys. And that's what I would say to anybody that is just now getting into Crestron or Extron or AMX or any of that. I'm not asking, I wouldn't necessarily expect, unless the people above you are asking, for you to become Crestron certified. Is just get yourself in there and at least become acclimated to the programs and how they look and how they work.
Yeah, well, I pretty much have that level at this point. It's the debate is whether we're going to do the programming in-house or whether we're going to farm it out. We did one system and we basically did it in-house with the help of basically somebody who just does programming on the side, and it used a 16 by 16 DMMD matrix switcher. So it was a bit of a handful of a project, and most people who come and see it are sort of like, you did this without talking to Crestron and the company and stuff, and we're like, yeah, it's like, wow, that's pretty impressive. And so most people are surprised that it works, but actually it worked, and it came out okay. We didn't maybe do it as easily as we could have if we'd actually been talking to the company ahead of time, but they sort of found out about us, as we're buying these pieces of equipment, and they're calling up, and it's sort of like, who are you, and why do you want a 16 by 16 DMMD matrix switcher?
Well, and the only comment I have
it sort of attracts their attention for some reason.
Greg says, "Yeah, I only have one Crestron room. It happens to be a 16 by 16 DM matrix, but I digress. Holy cow, dude! Yeah, you did it right, man. That's impressive. Yeah, that's what I say about that.
It was an interesting experience.
I guess I've heard of a couple guys like this, and I mentioned the Midwest rep, the gentleman who was my favorite Midwest rep, and I will swear I will say this to the end of the earth, the best education rep I think I've ever had, and that his name is Kevin Iselli, and he is now the DM trainer. I think he does a lot of DM training. Let's just put it that way. He moved on to DM training a couple of years ago, and I think I just got an email the other day that we have a new rep. So according to Crestron, I should be hearing from him soon. So we'll see.
Our rep just left the company, and I'm told I'll be getting another one soon also.
Well, dude, you just bought a 16 by 16. Yeah, you'll be getting a new one.
You're going to be getting your own.
Yeah.
Well, no,
Randy Klein will be calling you.
So far, now that they know who we are, getting them to call hasn't been a problem. We had a great rep, but she's moved on to another company.
Okay, can I ask a stupid question? You're freaking UCLA. You're not. I mean, come on. It's not like, okay, I work for a community college outside of St. Louis. You're freaking UCLA.
Yeah,
and they just discovered you.
Hey guys, there's this big college out west. Somebody should call them.
Everything is very decentralized here. Like I've said before, we're not the only AV department on campus. We're just the largest.
All right, still.
And, everything is very decentralized. We are not part of an IT department. Every department and school has their own IT department. So we have something like 34 of them. When people ask if I'm part of an IT department, I say, which one?
Wow, really? That sounds like a nightmare.
Let me just throw something in right there, since I'd probably be remiss as a board member, but there is the Crestron Owners Group, which I'm on the board for, which is a peer-to-peer support service. We're on LinkedIn. I know Greg's been very active on there recently. So if anyone's not aware of it, it's a great resource. Crestron does monitor it, and they are advisory to us, but we are independent. And so far, there hasn't been any topic you can't bring up.
Yeah.
Well,
I've
I just
noticed
want to
that.
Oh, go ahead, Greg.
I was just to say about the group. Yeah, they don't officially monitor it, but boy, somebody jumps on there with a problem or some sort of an issue. It's amazing how quickly somebody from the company jumps on with some sort of resolution or some sort of idea. Go ahead, Scott.
I was just going to mention, I think one of the things I really like about the A+ program is that a few of us have had, different experiences with Crestron reps. I will argue with you, Tim, I had the best Crestron rep ever in Michael Goldman. But I think the great thing about the A+ program is that you can call those numbers and you can talk to tech support. You can do those RMAs yourself. You can get training. And so even if they've got some reps that are a little weaker in some areas than others, the support is still there.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Regardless of who your rep is, if you call those numbers, those guys are really good. So, on to Infocom, the group that we all are members of, and proudly. So, a couple things about this. We're going to talk about Infocom, the show here in a little bit. The first thing though is the membership change, and I thought it was a good thing, even on first glance. And the more I looked into it, the more excited I got. They're changing their membership. There is now 2 levels. That's it. If you didn't know before, there were several different levels, mainly for companies. Really, there was like a gold and a platinum and different price structures for that. Now it's $500 for institutions. Let's say. So if your college wants to become an InfoComm member, and then there are benefits to that, that's great. If you're not, which our college does not, I'm the only quote-unquote member, that's $150 annually. The one downside to this, and Scott, we'll start with you, EduBucks is going away. EduBucks were the education dollars you got to purchase, the events and the Super Tuesday classes or online classes and stuff like that. So that's kind of going away, but they're giving you more free classes, I guess is the best way to put that. So do you think this is a good thing? Is this not so good, especially for you guys specifically?
It doesn't bother me that much. We never really used our EduBucks that often. We would take the online courses that came with, well, I guess they didn't come with our membership, but they're going to now. We used to take an online course and it'd be $99 and we could apply our EduBucks, so it was essentially free. Now we're not going to have to go through that process of putting in our EduBucks number. It's just going to be free. And there's lots of books and stuff you could never buy with EduBucks. So for me, it's a decent deal. There's no limit. I can tell people that work for me to take a class, to take a refresher class. It's a great way when somebody who just starts at your institution to have them take one of those courses, and you can kind of see where they are in their knowledge. So I think it's a good thing.
So Matt, do you guys have an institution one, or is it just individual guys?
We have an institution one, and as the guy who's had to coordinate and manage our EduBucks for the past 5 years, I am so happy it's going away. I mean, we have 25 or so full-time staff where I've been trying to coordinate this, and it's either we're not spending enough, or I'm getting a call saying someone has overdrafted your EduBucks account. So that makes me happy. I was talking to one of our support managers about this last Friday, and one of the things which really intrigues us is all the classes being free. We have at the campus I'm at, our Fairfax campus, I think at this point about 35 to 45 student employees who do AV support.
Wow.
And the idea of being able to say, after you get hired, for your first month on the job, we expect you to work through, fundamentals of the AV industry or whatever it turns out to be, is huge, because there's no limit on how many people we could join. And I wish I could say we could make the $100 commitment for every student employee, but we really couldn't. So the idea of that being free is huge for us.
Yeah, that is huge. Greg, are you guys members of InfoComm?
We are. We've actually been platinum members for many years. Although it's always been a little bit of drama as far as getting people to classes. It's amazing for a university with our size and budget how many hoops sometimes you have to jump through to send somebody to a $100 class. Typically, I've been the only one who's been using the EduBucks. Up until maybe like this last year or two, it's opened up a little bit. I think big picture, probably a good move. Simpler structure, and curious to see how the free classes work out. That will probably be a very useful one.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, and InfoComm also has a couple of different things. One is opportunities to volunteer, and one of those opportunities, all of us here volunteer on that, and that is the Technology Managers Council. One way, and Scott, will let you take this. How do people get involved in not just this council, but if they have other ones? And then Matt will ask you, because you've got some connections with like the standards committees and other ones too.
Yeah, so the Technology Managers Council is the council for those of us who own AV products and work in a dedicated location like a college or university or hospital or airport. And to join, if you're a member of InfoComm, you simply go to our website on the InfoComm page and send in a request. We are right now in the Technology Managers Council working on a couple of things to help understand better exactly what a technology manager is and who we are in the industry, and perhaps even tossing around an idea about does technology manager still describe us appropriately, or is there some better description?
Okay, Matt, what's you've got the InfoComm standards and some other committees that you're on. How do people get involved in those?
Sure. I'm on the Infocom Standards Committee, which works on right now our industry's ANSI standards initiative. There are three standards which have already gone forward: the ACU, which is audio uniformity, the design guide standard, as well as PISCR, which is the projected image contrast ratio standard. And there's a whole bunch right now under development as well, including things like display image size. This has been a fantastic committee I've worked on. I've actually been on it for about 18 months now, and it's one of the Infocom standing committees which are appointed by the Leadership Development Committee. I was able to get involved because someone was asking for volunteers once, and I said, sure, this sounds interesting. Mm-hmm. And a while later, I've drank the Kool-Aid and have, been born again, all about standards development. And right now, there's actually a call out for volunteers for two standards, new standards development initiatives, as well as 3 industry innovation groups. And industry innovations are what was formerly known as best practices. The board, I don't know the full history behind this, but rebranded that this year. And so it's really a great initiative because these are truly open calls. One of the things to think about I'll talk about ANSI standards forever if you let me, but
we won't.
Don't. No, we won't.
But with the ANSI standards, one of the things we do as a committee is make sure the industry is represented from all of our constituent groups. And what that's drawn into is really 4 different groups. You have the consultants, which also includes programmers, integrators, manufacturers, and technology managers. So something that's very important to us is making sure we have balance on all of our committees and making sure each of those 4 groups are represented. Our standards committee, which is the steering group, actually has right now a perfect balance with 8 members, 2 from each of the segments. So it really provides a nice balance as we look at developing these things.
Very cool. So yeah, go ahead.
I got a question. With those, Matt, I guess some of us might be sitting back and saying, well, what sort of experience do we need to have to be a part of one of these things, or what should we bring to the table? How high is the bar to get onto one of these committees, so to speak?
That's a good question.
That's a fantastic question. And what I would say is you have to bring an interest in a topic and a knowledge base. We do have some people on these committees who I will say are the absolute industry expert in that particular thing. But building standards is a consensus-based activity. The idea is to come together as an industry to develop a consensus plan for what it needs to be. So, for example, as technology managers, we can represent our segment very well on any of these committees. And you may not be the absolute audio expert, but if you apply whatever that audio item or that video item in your environment, you can represent your segment very well. We review resumes for these committees, and we really look to find a diverse representation of the industry as we're building these committees.
Oh, very good.
So people should just go ahead and apply if they're interested?
Absolutely. And here's what I'll say. Even if it turns out this one isn't right for you, you become part of what we call the subject matter expert body, which is a group now, it's probably 400 plus volunteers who get kind of first crack at things. So they're like the email, for those of you who saw this go out on AV1 or some similar listservs, this email first went out to the subject matter experts group. And it's not saying they get a preference, but it allows you to be a little bit more in touch with the industry, and we're going to try to start pushing out a little bit more information to this group. So if it's something you're interested either now or in the future being part of, I really encourage people to contact standards@infocom.org and just say, hey, I want to be part of this. Yeah. And we'll make sure you get in the pool. Or Infocom will, not me personally.
And if you have any problems with it, just contact Matt. I will say this. Matt got me into the standards committee party last year, and Yeah, I wasn't smart enough to be in that room. Let me just say that. Yeah. So, all right.
But was it? Tell me about it. It must have been a rocking party, though.
It was incredible. It was fun. But again, I mean, they were telling physics jokes, and drinking out of flasks and stuff. So or beakers.
It was a theme party. The theme was a standard measure, hence the beakers.
Yes.
But it really is what happens when you put, I'd say, 100 alpha geeks in close proximity to each other. It gets interesting.
Yeah. Again, not smart enough to be in that room. From Rave Bubs, this actually could have just been from Extron themselves. The folks at Anaheim have released their Media Link app for the iPad. And I'll say this, and I have a personal issue with how long it takes for things to come out after InfoComm, but that's just my own personal thing. And I'll delve into it real quickly. If you show it at InfoComm, it should be ready the next day. That's just my 2 cents. But they did show this at InfoComm. It is ready now in March. Greg, we're going to start with you because you're the only one who's had any experience with this.
Yeah, we had somebody bring an iPad with the app on it to a meeting last week, and we're a little disappointed. Basically, to be honest, I mean, we have lots of Extron Media Link controllers, and they're unable to authenticate, and so we have to put them on their own subnets in all of the rooms. I have a subnet in every building, and we get that subnet from the IT folks under the agreement that has no access to the outside world whatsoever. Has to be locked up inside cabinets, and best we can figure by looking at the information on this, and I spent part of the weekend going over the technical documentation for this app, both pages of it. You have to give it free connection to whatever the subnet that all of your Media Link controllers are on. So it seems like it's entirely a non-starter for us, and we were sort of we had a number of people who were looking forward to using this, and this is clearly not what we were hoping for. The other question we had here with this, not only was the subnet issue, was it can only work with 12 rooms, so it's clearly intended as something you're going to be giving to instructors, not something you're going to be giving to techs to, be able to go out there and diagnose problems. So we're kind of a little confused and disappointed at this point, basically.
Wow. Well, and I was disappointed with the graphics, to be honest about it. And that was, I mean, I'm here we'll get into the subnet stuff, but I thought that, you know what? I understand what an MLC is. I understand, and if you don't know what an MLC is, an MLC, the one that they use is the 104. It's a box. It's a box with buttons and hard buttons, and that's what it is. But that's their controller interface. That is, their push buttons and
or the 226.
Or the 226.
Yeah,
which gives you some
exactly like the face of a 226.
But didn't they have the opportunity to make this, I'm not going to say AMX-like or Crestron-like, but somewhat sexier than emulating the box that's on the wall?
Well, this is the app for the Media Link controllers. There will be, I don't think it's out yet. And don't get me started about Extron and when we actually see products they announce. But I believe there is another app coming for that will let you tie into the TouchLink panels, which are sort of their version of programmable touch panels, configurable. Excuse me, don't use the P word around Extron, folks.
No, you can't program them.
Right. That's a double-edged sword. But I believe there's an app for those coming, which isn't out yet.
Okay. All right, so let's talk about the subnet stuff. Let's talk about the stuff, the fact that you have to give them access to this. Is that, you said that's a non-starter for you? So and I guess we'll go over to Matt for this because I don't know a whole lot about networking. I'll be the first to admit that. I'm a control guy. I'm a video guy. And I know enough about networking to make myself dangerous and to tick off my IT guys. So,
well, I think we're all in that camp.
Well, yeah, I just, Mac comes from an IT background, so that's why I lean on him a lot. Is that a big deal, Matt? Or is it having access to everything, is that a huge security deal?
Yep. It just what it screams to me is like a lot of AV products, and this is not just Extron, is I don't know who they were designing it for. And it's no one brought in, an enterprise IT guy and said, would this work in your environment? And it's really, it makes me wonder, because I actually think, like with Global Viewer, Extron kind of nailed that product really well. Mm-hmm. And it's like that they have two support teams that are just not even talking to each other based on the way you described it. You have Global Viewer, who I've actually told Crestron, I think Enterprise gets the higher ed enterprise environment much better than Crestron does with RoomView. And we were, at times trying to emulate stuff that Global Viewer does out of the box. But it's like a lot of these products where they expect, all your equipment exists on the same subnet. Or it uses some weird protocol which requires you to open up holes in your firewall. And I actually think I just heard my networking staff cringe by me just saying that. It's there's a conversation here. I mean, we sit down when we started working on a RoomView server initiative. I met with networking, I met with server, I even met with some apps people, where we did an analysis of what does this mean to our enterprise environment. And I think gone are the days that, at least, in a large university, you just throw a device on the network. And Greg, from your description, it almost sounds like that's what Extron just thought. I mean, this just got thrown on your network.
Yeah, I'm sort of looking for a little bit of, are we the only people like this? But it seems to me, you can't just lay this stuff open to the great unwashed masses.
But that's what they've done so far with their IP stuff.
Well,
isn't it?
That's
with the exception of Global Viewer.
We literally, for as soon as we started rolling out the Media Link controllers, we moved to a model where when we build a classroom, we're getting 3 or 4 new data lines pulled just for us, one of which so that we can have a couple of data ports on our very own private subnet. Right. Like I said, which doesn't require authentication but cannot be open to anyone else.
Wow.
I know. It's funny because I agree with you, Matt. I think you sometimes wonder who these companies are designing things for. I remember when I tried to use one of the first Crestron wireless touch panels, it wasn't working. And so our integrator called Crestron. They said, well, you need to go get a Linksys router. It only works with Linksys routers.
Oh, and I remember that panel very, very well.
And I was like, well, no, hold on a minute, though. You don't get, I work at a college. They're not going to let me just throw a Linksys router in. Well, that's what you need to do. And I was like, you guys are always bragging. You use Microsoft and Cisco. Do you just go into Cisco and tell them to use a Linksys router? But that was their solution. I had to go to Walmart, buy a Linksys router. And so I obviously never used that panel. But, it's like, who told you that was an okay idea?
Oh, wow. Some engineer somewhere. Just everybody has Linksys routers. Just
right, exactly.
Oh, my. All right, let's move along to the world of projectors and smart boards. Just show of hands. Does everybody here have a smart board, at least one or some on your campus?
Yes.
None that we are responsible for.
Okay. Mr. Silverman?
Yeah, unfortunately, we do.
All right, so 3 of the 4 of us have them. I'm not a big fan of them, but I get them. I get the use case. Let me just put it that way. So the story I gave you guys, and you gave me some crap for it was BenQ. But you could have said this about any of them, because there was some that were released at InfoComm last year, at least shown at InfoComm last year. This one's actually shipping, and we all know my feelings on showing things and not shipping them. So Scott, is this the BenQ part aside, and we can have a debate over BenQ's merits later, but the concept, the technology here, where you have a projector and it is your smartboard. You know, you don't have to have a stupid, thing on wheels. You roll it around, and if you can get it off kilter, you can get it, the keystone can be off or whatever. This is your actual interactive part. Is that not attractive, or is that just too many eggs in one basket?
Yeah, we don't use smartboard at Bates. We use Symposiums, so we use their monitor-based product. And what I found, we've actually just this week had a discussion about this, is people don't use them. We have found that no matter how much we talk to faculty about using them, they simply don't use them. And so I don't know that whether BenQ, well, I don't know BenQ, period, but I don't know whether this is going to make any difference. I think the difference that we're going to see is with iPads or tablets coming in that just make that seamless. And there's not, even with the Symposium, there's always toolbars floating around that people don't like. When you're in the writing mode, sometimes you have to click 4 or 5 times to get out of it, and it confuses people. So if you've got an iPad that you really can just write over and annotate over, or some other tablet that does that, I think that's really where we need to go. Whether these interactive projectors end up in K-12 or something like that, I don't know. I know that for us, we're going to stop using Symposiums, and we wouldn't put something like this in just because we're not seeing people using it at all.
Just period.
Yeah.
Matt, do you see a use case for this where you can get rid of the boards, or is this, like I said, too many things in one basket?
No, we've gone in cycles. When I first got to George Mason over a decade ago, we had a couple of the old rear projection smarts, which were kind of the bane of my existence. And through non-use, we ended up discontinuing that product in our environment. And we probably went a good 5 years, and we were doing a focus group on seminar-style teaching, basically small group, 12 to 16. And we got a lot of feedback from a bunch of different colleges, actually from our law school, from our College of Science, from our colleges of liberal arts, and really said, we all have different applications. A lot of them were just document markup. So we introduced 2 years ago a seminar room standard at George Mason, which has a smart board. Basically, it was the board plus the smart projector. The board itself works well. The projector, don't get me started on. Our staff here really just wants to rip them all down. I really do like the idea of it just being an all-in-one projector. I think for specific use cases, it works really well. You have to start thinking about new things, though, like how are you going to cable back to your computer? And you just have to put a little bit more planning into it. But I really am starting to like, for smaller classrooms, not just the interactive projectors, but the short throw projectors. And we were kind of looking at some of the price points on, we're in Epson University, and Epson has a comparable product. And for only a couple bucks more in the long run, you can add interactivity to a non-interactive projector. So we're starting this summer to give it real consideration that, in our smaller rooms, I'd say like 30 seats and below, maybe this is something we want to consider. We have got some push from faculty that they are interested in this.
Yeah, and that was my question, was whether or not we could start interacting with this. Greg, does it interest you at all, or is it just you guys don't use them? So
Well, we've tried the whiteboard route a couple of times. The problem we always ended up with is we'd put a couple whiteboards out there, and you couldn't get the instructors who wanted to use them in that particular room. It was always a battle of the room's the wrong size, or it's in the wrong building, or something like that. So we've tried. But to be fair, I looked this up, and they do have a really great video demonstrating these projectors on YouTube. And one of the things this does, which is a little neat, is that you don't have to put the pen right up on the screen or right up on the board. You can point at it and write at it, which is sort of neat. I think also they're showing it where you're projecting it on a projection screen, and I'm not sure I want anything resembling a pen anywhere near my big expensive vinyl sheets that I tend to hang all over the place. But it's clearly, K through 12 sort of area, I think, yeah, it's an interesting area. I think that's an interesting product. I mean, I do have some BenQ projectors. Can't say I've become much of a fan based on that. Having newly repaired units come back and then explode on the shop bench and blow the circuit breaker in the shop, don't tend to endear you to technical people, but it's an interesting product. Although really, I can't help but wonder when the folks who are making the touch sensitive monitors are going to sort of spot this market and then eat the lunch of all of the people who are making the interactive whiteboards and these interactive projectors, because that just seems like that's much more the killer app for this sort of world.
Yeah, you're right. That is true. That and like Scott said, the iPads and stuff. So, alrighty, from Vadio, the guys who make some really cool control computer or cameras, and they make a really cool in-ceiling document camera. It is the Easy USB tools for the USB revolution, and according to the press here, it's whether you're looking to design a small video conferencing system or a large integrated lecture capture classroom, Vadio gives you the tools you need to make your software applications work in real-world AV environments. So, we'll go around on this one. Matt, is this, we've talked about, integrating stuff and making things easier. We talked about, Crestron's, Capture HD system a couple times ago. Is this, more ubiquitous for us as education guys because it's all USB and because it integrates so many different things from Google and Skype and other things? Does this make it easier to kind of make our own video conferencing system?
Oh, that's a loaded question. It makes it easier to build a Skype classroom. I will say that. At some point, there's a judgment call whether is Skype or Google Video or whatever really the same experience as, IP, H323, or, telepresence video conferencing. A year ago, I was asked by one of our departments, could we build a Skype classroom? And I said, not really. And they ended up, Velcroing a web camera to the ceiling, which didn't make me feel too good. But that would prevent, this new product launch would prevent that. And I think there's some interesting possibilities. I haven't figured out a specific use scenario for us yet on this one, though.
Yeah. Mr. Tyner, is this... go ahead, Greg.
Cameras velcroed to the ceiling. Now, there's an integration.
Wow.
Send a picture of that, Matt.
Yeah, not so much.
We're different. We're slightly different than that. We're a very small college up here in Maine. We don't do any online courses or any telepresence type courses. We use video conferencing a lot for interviewing people, doing initial interviews and stuff. And I really like this product because one of the situations that we've had, of course, is people say, I want to use Skype. I use it at home. I know it. It's fine. And we say, well, it works 90% of the time, but it's free, and you never know what's going to happen, and that's great. The quality's not that great. That's fine. I don't care. And then they call us when they're done. And they go, boy, that webcam in the room really couldn't pick everybody up. And you go, yeah, geez, who would have thought of that? And so for me, exactly. I'm glad you told me that. For me, this makes a big difference because now we can mount this on the wall. They got the PTZ capabilities, and they're still using Skype. Because I think there's also a part of our jobs that we need to realize. Telling people to go to a special conference room to use the H323 system, and somebody on the other end needs to go to if they're just a end user, they need to go to a place and rent a system. It just doesn't make sense anymore. And it is true that my experience is Skype does work 90% of the time. And so for me, we're building systems like this. We're putting some systems in classrooms where somebody may want to invite a guest speaker in. We've done that on several occasions. So I think there's a real use for this in that kind of scenario. I can certainly see where, if Matt or other colleges are trying to connect two different campuses every single day, this is not where you're going to want to go with that.
Yeah. But it is where you want to go if you have something like, connecting Skype or connecting Google Talk on the far end to, a classroom in general. So, Greg, is this something, do you guys do video conferencing at all? And is this something that you would do or consider?
Well, most of the video conferencing we do is done with little portable equipment. We do a lot of lecture capture, and it's handled by a sister group or a sister unit of mine, and they're very intrigued, and they'd like to take a look at this. What they do is they put a Mac Mini in the classroom, and then we have a system of Panasonic IP-based cameras where everything is controlled here from a central location, and you have a joystick controller, and they, control the camera out in the room, and then at the end of the class, they can just press a button and switch over to a camera in another class and start recording that to leverage the people across multiple classes. And they do want to take a look at this and see, particularly, what the interface is like and how it works, and they're cautiously optimistic. It might be something that works for us, but we need to see it. And the latest we heard was that there weren't going to be any demo units until probably about the time of InfoComm, which. Well. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. 3 months. All right. I'll give them that. But we would have liked to have had a few demo units or something that we could have seen and tried. And they do have a lot of videos online, but they're kind of slim technically. Not seeing a lot of user interface or things like that stuff yet.
Well, Greg, if they get it done by June, that gives you 3 whole months before your classes start, so that's plenty of time.
Yeah, well, they unfortunately they roll out new classes every quarter, so that's been an ongoing target.
And the videos are slim on the technical end because the stuff doesn't exist yet.
It exists. There's a picture right there.
Let's just say I know Vadio, and I think if they've got product coming in 3 months, they're probably fairly sure what they're going to build, whereas with some other companies, I think a lot of times I've gotten the impression their product announcements were more a way of finding out how much interest rather than an actual intent to build a product. And
nobody would ever do that.
I'm not going to name any names.
Oh, come on, name the name.
Huh?
All right. I was waiting for you. No, I was waiting for you to name the name.
No, I've gotten in enough trouble.
Or like
that way.
cough, or give me it in Pig Latin or something. I don't know. All right. You're listening to EdTech. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're never going to have any sponsorship, are we?
No. Crestron loves us. I mean,
we've pretty much taken care of everybody that's out there on the market. At least we're equal opportunity.
Maybe McDonald's. All right. Go ahead. Matt's going to give us a real quick rundown of his impression of the new iPad, because in case Apple ever did want to sponsor, we'll take care of that right now.
Yeah. So the new iPad, it's new. The new iPad, not the iPad 3. Yeah, it was kind of, I guess, a lackluster for me when I saw what came out. I mean, the higher resolution is great, but it was very much an incremental upgrade. I mean, it really should have been like the iPhone 2S, because that's really about all they added to it. I mean, I think it's great, but I really wish they would, again, make it a little bit more enterprise friendly. I was talking to another university last week or 2 weeks ago, and apparently their new enterprise tools actually make it worse to manage now than it was before. So I don't know. I mean, it just really didn't do much for me. How about you guys?
I don't have one yet. So
I've got an iPad. I had the iPad 1. I've got the iPad 2. I think that for me, again, Matt, I think you hit the nail on the head. To me, this was a this was the iPad 2S. It's neat. If you don't have one, I'd probably go buy it, but I'm not getting rid of the iPad 2 to go grab it.
Yeah, and see,
you don't want the full set there, Scott?
I'm going to start a collection.
Yeah.
You can play Angry Birds on any of them.
Well, see, and that was my thing is I've never had one. I don't have a 1 or 2 or the 3 or the new one yet. And in talking to you, Matt, and talking with Gary Kay, the guy that does Rave Pubs, he and I have a daily show, and he was all about, this is the best thing ever, and this, that, and the other. And I simply told him, I said, look, these specs do not impress me. I might as well save $100 and go get the 2. And he said, no. He goes, and he made a good point. He said, if you don't have one at all, cough up the extra $100 and get the full res, the newest, latest, greatest one. If you do have a 2, then yeah, stick with the 2 and wait for the 4 or whatever it is they call the next one. So. Alrighty. That's all I have on my plate, guys. Do you have anything else to kind of talk about or promote? The Super Tuesday stuff. Super Tuesday. If you're not familiar with Super Tuesday, it is the Tuesday before InfoComm starts, and there are a number of classes. And this year there is an education focused. And we're calling it Scott Tyner's Super Tuesday event.
There we go.
I'm joking.
Yes, the three of us voted on that.
Yes.
As long as I get a fee for it, I'll be happy.
We'll pay you in EduBucks.
Yes. Very nice. All kidding aside, we're giving Scott a hard time. It's not his idea. It's not. InfoComm came up with it, but it's an education focus, and so Scott, go ahead and kind of go over because you're the one that let me know about it at least.
Yes. It's a Super Tuesday event, and it's focused on, again, mainly education. Because often we talk about technology managers, we think about education. But I think that anybody who's a technology manager would be interested. We've got a session from Dan Doolin at the University of Illinois. He's going to do some talking about how they've implemented campus standards at the University of Illinois. We have Tim Cabe giving a really interesting talk on ADA requirements. I think it's one of the things that a lot of us haven't necessarily paid a lot of attention to over time. And so it might be really good to kind of get that opportunity from somebody who really knows what he's talking about, like Tim Cape, to think about.
And by not paid attention to, you mean ignored, right?
Yeah. and we realize now as we look at things and just become more aware of the podiums that we built and the touch panels that people can't reach, or just a whole bunch of issues, the sound in a room, that we need to focus on that. It's the right thing to do. We have a person from Virginia Tech who's going to come and talk about emergency planning. And we thought that this would be an interesting talk because AV is so involved in everything that happens on our campuses or in our businesses now that, if you talk about emergency planning, you talk about digital signage, you talk about paging, you talk about sending messages to your classrooms, you talk about cameras in classrooms maybe that can get tied into emergency planning. So he's going to give a really interesting topic. It's not your typical what you think of a typical AV talk, but I think it's really interesting that AV is involved in all of that stuff now. William Natras is going to give an interesting talk about the show floor and how to make the most of the show floor. I don't know about other people.
That's a huge one.
Yeah, every time I go to InfoComm, I don't get the appointments with the guys at Crestron and Extron. I can barely even talk to them. They're so busy. So he's going to really talk to us about not just how to make the most of the show floor, but he's going to have seen the show floor the day before, so he can tell us some things to see, and he can kind of tell us the trends to watch for on the show floor. So that'll be a really awesome topic. And then we've got Andrew. I'm not quite sure how to say his last name. Andrew Milne or Miney.
I believe it's Milne. Milne.
Okay. And he's going to talk about the mobile devices and how this is changing some of what goes on in the classroom. This is kind of the what we're going to be dealing with in the next 3 to 5 years talk. So it's an array of different people, some really interesting topics, and it should be fun.
Very cool. So if you haven't registered, register for InfoComm. Go to infocomshow.org to do that. And then in that, you can sign up for all of the Super Tuesday classes or one or two. It's entirely up to you. And some of this is also, obviously based on your your travel arrangements and when you get to Vegas and stuff like that. But I think that all of these are really, really cool and really important. If you apply for the to be on the Technology Managers Council, we have a meeting there. If I'm not mistaken, Scott, I think it's on Friday morning. Is that correct?
That's right. Yep.
Make sure I got my calendar straight for that one because it's a busy one this year. So do that. Go to infocom.org to sign up to join the Technology Managers Council, or go to infocomshow.org to sign up for the show. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Greg, this is your first time, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Yes.
We enjoyed having you.
Had a blast. Appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. His name is Greg Brown, Manager of Classroom Technology Design and Maintenance from UCLA. Yay, Bruins.
Yes. Yay.
Also,
Go Bears.
Thank you, Tim.
Go Bears. I will never let that one down. Matt Silverman, he is Project Manager of Learning Space Design for George Mason University. And also a really smart guy when it comes to standards.
Go.
Patriots.
Patriots?
Patriots.
Yeah, go Patriots.
Patriots, yes.
Patriots.
And then, of course, Scott Tyner, the Assistant Director of User Services at Bates College.
Go Bobcats.
Oh, I like that. Bobcats. That's not one you hear very often. Go Bobcats. All right. My name is Tim. I'm the host. Thanks so much for listening. To check this out, if you found this on iTunes, if you would like to find more like this, or listen to the past ones, go to our website, ravepubs.com/AVNation. ravepubs.com/AVNation. That's what this show is. Our weekly AV week, as well as we have shows about do it yourself. We have a Women in AV podcast now, and we have a daily show. So check all those out. ravepubs.com/AVNation. Thanks so much for listening to EdTech.